So let's face it, getting a job and going through a job interview is really, really difficult, even in your native language. But if you have to do it where English is not your native language, and this is the language of the interview, and the language you'll need to use in your job position, it's even more difficult. This lesson today is going to give you many different tips to try to help you to stand out from the crowd and how to approach your interview so that you can get through it and be prepared, both before the interview and afterwards. This is one of the lessons from the Real English Conversations podcast. And in this episode, I invited my friend Greg from Online Language Academy to join me to talk about his experiences hiring people. Greg has an English school where he hires dozens of teachers every single year, and he has a very specific strategy that he uses to choose the teachers that he feels are the best fit for his business. Related to my experience, I have also hired many people in my career. About 10 years ago, I used to operate my own delivery service, and I was looking for people that were delivery drivers and dispatchers. And related to this business with Real English Conversations, I work with everybody from transcriptionists to video editors, audio editors, programmers. I have an assistant that helps me out. Each one of these people went through an interview with me, and I was looking for specific things that made them stand out from the rest of the applicants. So let's get started with this lesson with tons of job interview tips for English learners.
Don't you see a brighter day for you and me? Don't you see someday you will be here with me?
Hi everyone, this is Amy from Real English Conversations, and today I have a very special interview for you with one of my friends, Greg, from Online Language Academy. Why don't you say hello, Greg?
Hi everybody. Hi Amy, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good, thanks. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about job interviews because I think Greg is a real expert in this area and has a lot of useful information that he can share with us. Why don't you tell us what you do at Online Language Academy, Greg?
Yeah, well, Online Language Academy is a business that I started in 2010. We teach students conversation classes, English conversation classes via Skype. And, a lot of the students have the goal to speak English with more fluency and more confidence, to get better job prospects or to pass exams. And, we've prepared many students for interviews, actually. So, we've got experience with that, but also I have interviewed a lot of teachers over the past few years and have had some very good and very bad experiences doing all those interviews too.
Oh, it sounds like you probably have a lot of stories and advice that you're going to be able to share with us in this conversation today. So I think the first thing that we should maybe talk about are the steps before people even get an opportunity to have an interview that might be affecting the reason why they get called to come in for an interview or not. So out of your experience, are there any things that happen in particular or things that you see that really help you to decide whether you want to interview someone or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you've got to really understand is that when you apply for a job, you are one of possibly 100 applicants or maybe 200 applicants. I mean, I've put job adverts out for qualified teachers, and I've in 2 days got 200 replies. So you've really got to stand out from the rest of the applicants. You've got to stand out from the crowd and immediately get the reader's attention. And I get so many applications that are just nothing special. You know, they're just a simple Word document, and they're expecting me to really find that impressive. Now you've got to be unique. You've got to really be unique You've no idea how many simple Word document CVs I get, which are just with their list of their, list of their work experience or qualifications just written on a simple Word document. And that's really, really not enough.
No, you really want to define yourself, I think, at the beginning. Try to take the time and customize that very first line, even the objective of the resume can be really helpful, right?
Absolutely. And make it personalized as well. Make sure that you're applying for the specific job that you're applying for. You know, when I get people saying, I'm really interested in working for Online Language Academy, it seems a prestigious company and I would really want to be part of that team, then that's great. But then you get other applications that don't have any text whatsoever. They just attach their CV to an email and send it blank.
Exactly. It's just like a copy and paste kind of answer where they're just, oh, here, I'm sending out 100 applications and they're all going to say the same thing. I'm not going to take the time to personalize it to the company I'm applying to.
Absolutely. And I tell you, if you've got to read through 100 applications, it's very, very easy just to press delete. And if they're not personalized and if they come addressed to like 20 different email addresses in the same email, and you can see all the email addresses that they're writing to, then they just get deleted. I don't even open the CV of people like that.
Yeah. So basically the number one thing that makes you immediately eliminate someone before you've even spoken to them or replied to their email is lack of personalization when they're applying for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. It would go directly into the deleted items of my inbox because you have to delete a lot. I mean, you can't spend a whole day reading through 100 CVs. You've got to make quick decisions to whittle them down, to get them down to a manageable number. And if you're not unique, then you're not going to get the attention of the person who is reading them.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I know for myself, when I did some hiring for something different, not for English teaching, but with my previous business where I ran a delivery company, we had one thing that I found to be very, very effective for screening people to see if they would be a good candidate for the job. And I created an ad. And in that ad, I asked them to email me their resume. And I noticed that you call it a CV, but you also speak British English. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was going to call it a CV, and then I thought, hey, wait a minute, that's not what I call it. So I asked them to send me an email copy of their resume. And the second step is that they call and they leave a voicemail message with specific detail that I have asked them to leave in the actual advertisement that I did for them to apply. And I can tell you that just listening to someone's voice tells you a lot about a person. You can really hear their motivation, if they're just applying because they have to apply for a job versus someone who's genuinely interested. And you also have the opportunity to see if they can follow instructions right from the beginning. Because if they can't give you all of the details that you asked for, what are they going to be like when you're trying to train them?
Exactly. In fact, you know what? I've very recently started demanding that the applicants send a video introduction of themselves. My time now is extremely limited, more than before, and it's just a great way to give a first impression of the person. Because if you organize an interview, that's automatically that's an hour of my time, and you can often make a decision within the first 5 minutes. And if you just if you ask them to send a quick video introduction, it gives you a good first impression. It proves to me that they are a native English speaker, which is a key thing for our teachers. I say specifically that the teachers must be native English teachers, but we still get a lot of applications from people whose mother tongue is not English. So it proves that. And most importantly, it shows me that they're serious, that they're willing to take that time and make the effort to make a quick recording. And, even if your employer doesn't demand this, I would still recommend just sending a link to a short video, because it will make you, that is one thing that you can do if you want to stand out and if you want to be unique. And that is it's not a great effort. It's a 2-minute video, and it just gives a great first impression of you.
Yeah, I can agree to that, because I use a website where I hire freelancers to do small jobs. Maybe it would be different things from creating transcriptions for the podcast that we produce to some different work that's done on the website. And when I'm looking for candidates, I've noticed that a few of them have included a video, and that has either been to their advantage or against them in some cases.
Yeah.
But, if you really, you make yourself presentable, do a short video, introduce yourself, and really try to show your personality. Employers aren't looking for someone that doesn't have a personality. We actually want to know who we're working with and what you're like. And if you can make that shine in your video, I think it'll really help you to go a long way.
Yeah. Don't read a text. Don't read a script of what they want to know. Be yourself, be natural, look to the camera, and just, show them your personality, because they want to see who they are potentially going to be working with. And that's a great way to give a first impression of who you are, as well as what you can do.
So let's pretend that you do find someone, they pass the screening stage where you're going through all of these applications, and you do decide to give them an hour of your time to do the interview. For example, how much of a role does it play that they have that personality during the interview? Does that make or break a candidate for you, or how do you feel about that?
Well, all my interviews are on Skype. The teachers who work for us, they're all around the world. So it's an opportunity for me to see how they would be in their classes. They're going to have this situation time and again when they meet new students. It's a first impression. It's how good of a conversationalist are they? Are they friendly people? Are they people that students are going to connect with? And that's a first kind of test. Are they able to connect with me? And if they are, then I would assume that they are going to be able to connect with the students too. So it's very important the way they come across in the interview.
Mm-hmm. I think that when I think back to when I was young and had low confidence, I hadn't had a lot of experience with really getting out in the job world. I was so nervous. I was a nervous wreck in interviews, and I wasn't able to show my personality. And I think that was really, really hard. So trying to work through the nerves and be yourself. I know it's easier said than done, but definitely important.
A bit of nerves is not the worst thing in the world. I've given interviews to people who are very nervous, to people who are a little bit nervous, and to people who are not nervous at all. And a little bit of nerves actually shows me that they really care about the job. It actually gives quite a nice impression. I remember saying to one applicant once, how are you doing today? She said, I'm really nervous. And I thought, okay, hey, you know what? That just means that she really, really cares about this job. It's not necessarily a terrible thing. And it's my job to help loosen her up, to make her feel a bit more comfortable so that I can actually see her real personality during the interview.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I did as well. I really had an approach when I interview people in person where I would talk to them as if they're my friend, and it just relaxes them. They can think easier. They're not worried about things. But, you're right. If someone comes in and they're a little bit nervous, it definitely shows that they care about the job. Are there a few other things that really make someone stand out to you in a job interview?
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about the three parts really: before, during, and after the interview. Before the interview, I expect communication between the applicant and myself to be professional and prompt. You know, again, it's giving you an idea of what they're going to be like to work with. So if you're emailing them and then you get in a reply maybe 2 days later, I don't want to work with people like that. So immediately it's going to give me a bit of a bad impression of them. And again, professional. I don't want text language on the emails. I want formal English and just professional English. So that's just beforehand. During the interview, you wouldn't believe how some people just don't know how to act in an interview, really. I mean, remembering that all my interviews are on Skype, I have given interviews to people who have been on their bed.
Oh, no.
People who have been with their cat, like stroking their cat during the interview. People who, you know, they haven't plugged their laptop in, so after 5 minutes they have to get up because their laptop battery is dying. And you just think, well, how unprepared are you? And come on, would you take your cat to a normal interview? It's ridiculous. So I was expecting them to be in a professional setting like they would be in a normal interview.
Yeah, or maybe setting up their laptop at least in their office or at their kitchen table as if you were coming to their house. I mean, I'm sure if the background is a mess and there's stuff everywhere with bad lighting, that doesn't help either.
No, it doesn't help. And if there's people walking around behind them, you know, you would think that they would say, hey, everybody, I've got a really important interview, so please stay out of the room for the next hour. You know, it's not hard to do if you are genuinely interested in the job.
Exactly.
So I expect them to take it seriously and be professional. And there's one winning thing for me, really, which is after the interview. And it's a step that so many people forget. And this is just a simple thank you email after the interview. Just a simple email. Thank you for your time. You know, if you need any further information, please just get in touch. I appreciate the opportunity. Just a simple email thanking the person. And it says so much about you, about the applicant. You know, it shows that you're good mannered. It shows, it really gives a great impression.
Okay, so I know for me, as a person that is doing an interview, I always have a few questions that I really like to ask people because I think that they're kind of difficult to answer, or they show you a different characteristic about a person, whether it's how they handle a situation, or it gives you more information than what this harmless question seems to have. Do you have any questions like that you like to ask people?
Yes, I do. And they're the first and the last question, actually. The first question I always ask is, what do you know about me? And what do you know about Online Language Academy?
That's a good one.
And, you know, this just tells me immediately, is the person interested? Have they done their research? Do they know what job they're applying for? And if the answer is no to that, then they're going to feel very bad about themselves immediately. And
not taking 2 seconds to read your website or even check out what the business is about. Like, come on, step number one.
They deserve to feel bad about that. I mean, it's the basic thing that you would expect, and most people have a good answer to that, but I have had a couple of terrible experiences. Probably the worst interview I've ever given was before I started with this question. Actually, it was before I did this, but I went through the whole interview, and right at the very end of the interview, the girl said to me, "What's your name?" I said, "Oh, my word, I'm Greg." And she said, "All right, and what's the name of the website?" I said, "Oh my word, seriously, you don't even know the website? You don't even know my name?" So, you know, do your research on who your interview is with. Do your research about the company you're applying for. The best interviews I've given, the applicants have had a really strong answer to this. They've been in all the sections of the website. They've been on our social media. They've been on the YouTube channel, on the blog, and they know exactly what they're applying for, and it gives a great first impression.
That's awesome. And what was the second question that you usually like to ask?
Yes. So the second question is the last question, and it's a simple question. The question is, do you have any questions? And I think a lot of people, when they hear this, they just understand, do you have any questions? But really, it's an opportunity for the applicant to give me more information about themselves, to show me that as well as everything that we've already discussed, they're able to offer whatever, something else to the table. You know, it's an opportunity for them to say, yeah, hey, I just want to say that apart from everything we've talked about, I'm also able to do this, that, and the other. And, you know, would it be possible for me to bring this to the job if you hired me? And the best answer I've ever got for this is a very recent interview I gave. I said, have you got any questions? And she said to me, yes. She said, what type of applicant are you hoping to hire? And I said, wow. Okay. So I said, I'm hoping to hire not just a great teacher, but somebody who's also a great worker, very reliable, someone who always goes the extra mile, puts the students' needs first and you know, goes the extra mile, does extra effort to be a professional and a really, really helpful teacher and a good worker. And she said, wow, that's me. That's, you've just described my best qualities. I think I'm perfect for this job based on what you've just said. And great.
Well, that's really, really good advice. I really like that question. Both your question and her question back.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
And this is the English conversation tip.
Okay, so for the English conversation tip, Greg is going to give us some of his advice to anyone who is preparing for a job interview where English isn't your first language. This can be a little bit of a challenging situation. You're going in, you're not able to communicate with the same confidence that you can with your native language. What would you give as advice to a person like this?
Yeah, I think confidence is the key problem here. It's, you're going to be nervous going to an interview, but going to an interview in English, you're going to be even more nervous, really. So I've got three tips I'm going to give you on how to overcome this. The first is to imagine the scenario in your head. Okay, imagine it in your mind over and over again, so that when the moment does come, you've already been there. You've already acted out that moment in your mind a million times. So you're going to be more comfortable when that moment comes. And when you're imagining this, answer the first question. The first question is always going to be, how are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. You know, if you can just answer that again and again and again in your head, then when the moment comes, you're going to be confident. And once you've got that first little introduction of yourself done, once that's done, then you can, you're going to relax anyway. The more you get into the interview, you're going to relax. It's natural. But that first moment, that's the worst moment. So make sure you've lived it a million times in your head before the actual interview.
Yeah, that's good advice. After a couple of minutes, you usually, not even a couple of minutes, just a few seconds, you can really calm down in that time. So just have the initial part that you know how it's probably going to go with a basic greeting practiced and rehearsed in your head.
Yeah.
Still listen to what the person says. Don't just repeat your rehearsed answer. It might not go that way.
Yeah, don't memorize it word for word, but know more or less the structure of what you want to say. The second thing is practice the interview. You can do this with two types of people. You can do it with a native teacher. I said previously, we help many students prepare their interviews in English, and your teacher can help you with your pronunciation. They can help you with nice expressions, winning expressions that are great to use in an interview. But I also recommend practicing in front of someone you're really, really uncomfortable doing it in front of. I used to practice interviews with my dad. I used to practice oral exams at university. I studied French and Spanish at university, and we had oral exams. So I always used to practice those with a housemate, and it was really, really, really awkward. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I hated it. But once you've done that with someone who you really hate doing it in front of, you've kind of broken that barrier of fear and embarrassment. So once you've done that, when then you do it to somebody that you don't really know in the interview, it's going to be easier than it was doing it to, your friend or family member.
No, that's a really good piece of advice. I like that one for really any sort of situation. If you have to do a presentation in front of a classroom in English or anything, public speaking assignment, it's do something that already pushes your limit of discomfort and get used to that feeling, because after you've done it once, it's really not that bad after.
Exactly. Okay. And the third piece of advice is reread your CV. This is another piece of advice that I got, and I think many people get, but they don't actually do. But read your CV, reread it. Make sure before the interview that you know exactly what is on your CV, and make sure that you're able to talk about it and expand on it in English, because that's, those topics of conversation are going to come up in the interview. The interviewer will probably have a copy of your CV there and will probably ask you a question on it. So just be able to go through your be able to talk about every past work experience that you've mentioned on your CV, that you're able to expand on your education, on any other activity or skill that you've put on your CV. Make sure you can do that. And again, practicing with an English teacher is the best way to practice that aspect.
I definitely agree with being able to expand on everything that you have on your resume or your CV is very, very important. And try to, ahead of time, if you can really try to think about how that experience connects to the job that you're applying for.
Yes.
That is so important. So practice thinking about that connection, because when you're in an interview and you're on the spot and you have to answer that question, it can be really, really hard to think about that connection.
It can. No, that's great advice. I always say, when we're practicing the questions with my students, I always say, make sure you finish the answer on a positive note, on how this can help in the job you're applying for. Use an example and relate that example to the current job, the job you're going to get.
Oh, that sounds really good. So Greg, as he has said, offers these conversation Skype practice lessons. He can help you to prepare for different tests, job interviews, or just your general conversation skills. I would definitely recommend that you head over to Greg's website at onlinelanguageacademy.com. And you have some sort of trial classes, don't you, Greg?
That's right. We offer everybody a 15-minute trial class. I mean, it's a great opportunity just to meet one of the teachers before you make any commitment to buy any classes. You can, test your level, see if the classes are right for you, test the connection, also of your computer before you start paying for classes. So yeah, it's a 15-minute class, and you can get that from the website, onlinelanguageacademy.com. You can book your trial class from there.
Oh, that sounds really good. And I'm sure from your website, they can follow you on all of your social media platforms. You guys have some really awesome YouTube lessons.
The links are there on the website. Well, I personally do 3 videos every week to help students with their English fluency. So come and subscribe.
Awesome. You made it through the lesson, and here you are on the other side. I hope that you found some of the tips that we shared to be really helpful, and to realize the importance of thinking about how you talk to the person that's hiring you as if they are the owner of the company, with the perspective that they have, with what they're looking for in the applicant, not just what the text says in the ad. If you're looking for more advice about how you can better prepare for a job interview, we definitely have several things that are over at our website for Real English Conversations. Number one, you can have private lessons with our teachers, which personally I have helped dozens of people to get a better job and help prepare them with some tips and practice to really sound good with their answers. A lot of people don't really know how to handle difficult questions, but with a little bit of help from your teacher, they're going to be able to guide you and think through the good things and bad things that you can say about yourself to make you sound really great in a job interview. The second thing that you can do is to really practice your English skills. It's not about the specific questions for the interview. If your fluency isn't really that great and you feel like you need to improve your speaking skills, we definitely have resources that can help you with that over at our website as well. We also have a few other lessons related to applying for jobs, preparing a resume, and also doing a personal presentation. All of these things are really, really important. And if you need to improve your listening skills too, to make sure that you can understand that job interview question when you hear it, we have lots of resources that can help you to train your listening skills. So thank you for watching this video. If you found something helpful, please leave us a comment below, like this video, and of course subscribe to our channel so that you receive all of the video updates when we publish them. I'll see you guys next time.